Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, and talk show host Rush Limbaugh claim that Black Lives Matter exacerbates tensions and sows racial divides. Here's the former mayor.
I think their
Black
argument
lives matter, white lives matter, Asian lives matter, Hispanic lives matter. That's anti-American and it's racist.
Well,
of course Black lives matter, and they matter greatly. But when you focus in on 1% of less than 1% of the murder that's going on in America, and you make it a national thing, and all of you in the media make it much bigger than the black kid who's getting killed in Chicago every 14 hours, you create a disproportion. The police understand it, and it puts a target on their back. Every cop in America will tell you that if you ask them.
My political power panel is here. Republican strategist Ford O'Connell, conservative author Kristin Tate, Democratic strategist and radio host of The Filter on Sirius XM Progress, Nomiki Kant. Good to see all of you. Ford, to you first. Are people conflating the Black Lives Matter message with being anti-police? A lot of protesters are saying the terms are not binary.
I think they are, and the reason why this is happening is because everyone's extremely emotional, and I have to say that a lot of white Americans don't know what it's like to be black and don't understand what it is they're seeing, but at the same time, there are no facts, or very few facts, when it comes to police and shootings for Black Lives Matter to make its case. They're upset about a lot of different things, but they're not focusing in on solutions. What they're focusing in is drawing attention to something that they can't necessarily prove.
All right, Kristin, I want to ask you a follow-up question because Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and I'm going to read his words, called protesters in Dallas hypocrites for running when the sniper opened fire, expecting men and women in blue to turn around and protect them. So this is just part of the position that law enforcement is in right now. What is your opinion?
Oh, it's a horrible position that they've been put in. You know, when I went on Facebook today, I'm seeing my millennial friends who are liberals saying things like these police in Dallas deserve to be shot. And this kind of rhetoric is kind of being reinforced by the highest levels of our government.
Which is crazy because maybe not everybody knows, but the police chief there, Brown, has actually done so much. In fact, Dallas was considered one of the most understanding communities between the actual community and the police force. He had made, I think, 3-month movements towards more transparency.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if there's any model in the U.S. for what a police force should be like, it's Dallas. And, of course, these cops didn't deserve to get shot. And I just think it's despicable that we're seeing the highest levels of government officials kind of like not justifying these shootings, but, you know, we need to make it very clear that there's no excuse and we won't tolerate this kind of violence, or else we'll probably see more attacks like this, unfortunately.
So, Nomiki, bringing in a point that Kristin just made, Jay Johnson, Homeland Security, has yet to call this a hate crime, even though the shooter said, essentially, I'm gunning for white people. I mean, if you substitute any other word in there except for white, it becomes a hate crime. What are we missing?
I think Jay Johnson, in every single case, as well as the president, has always waited for the investigation to be conducted on both sides. And nobody is condoning violence on either side. In fact, another police chief talked about how there is a problem in the police force. He's a Minneapolis police chief, and he said that there are militarized weapons being handed to 25-year-olds. A lot of these guys, it's a tragedy. They're Iraqi war vets, they're Afghani war vets. They're coming in, and the only jobs they can get are in the police force. And there's a culture in the police force that undoubtedly needs to be reformed. Not every police officer is violent.
More training, but of course the pushback is that takes more money. Ford, do you want to say something on that?
Well, what I was going to say is that's not true about President Obama and Jay Johnson. They've decided to weigh in on some situations, as we saw with Trayvon Martin. I will say this, though, that
they waited for an investigation, Ford.
Well, they weighed in immediately and basically said that this is essentially a racial hate crime, even though they might not have used those terms. And I will say this, the government is not backing our police, who really have the hardest job in the world, because they don't have any trust for the community, and everyone wants to jump on them for one little thing if they don't do everything by the book. And it's really, really tough to police America. And trust me, if the police are gone, people
that are really being ignored. You know, it's not an either-or situation, and it's not like the police force is being ignored. They're highly funded. There's some reforms that have to happen. Even the FBI director said so. But the problem here is that you have a community that is hurting, that is being targeted, and that is not debatable. That is just not debatable. We have thousands of videos that are out of people being slammed to the background,
Times is debating
shot.
that. The New York Times is
But can you make
debating
an
that.
excuse? Why is it that you have police officers shooting unarmed men? I mean, there's no excuse for that, Ford.
White people are
Absolutely
being
no
shot
excuse.
by police, too.
We don't know what the police procedure was or what the incident was.
It is people of color are being targeted. We've seen that in New York.
White people are being targeted too, though. I mean,
well, where? Oh, are you kidding me?
2 times as many white people are shot every year
by police
than black people. That's absolutely
Where is that number
true.
from?
Look at the Washington Post last year put out a report on this. Of course, white people make up a larger percent of the population, so we expect that. But within minority communities, there's a larger percent of crime happening, for the population. So, of course, there are going to be more run-ins with the police, with people who...
No, there's a larger amount of targeted crime. Whites smoke just as much weed, do just as much drugs as African Americans, yet they are targeted and they are arrested at a higher rate.
One thing I would say about that, to your point, Omiki, is the idea that affluent, I won't break it down by race, but it's more a class issue. Affluent people can go and have access to the drugs that they want, whereas poorer classes are buying them on the streets. We have to leave it there. I want you all to come back. This is an important conversation. Ford, Kristin, Omiki.